Hi, it's Kylie Koo with the ATC challenge, where I'm creating an ATC each day for June. So I found my desk just as it had been left when I'd finished yesterday's ATC. Not a single thing had been moved. So when I sat down, that piece of greaseproof paper, which I think I've said in the past I always use these at some point for collage, I just like to look at that. So I thought today I'm going to use that as part of this day's ATC, and I don't know if I said, but I think this is day 10. So I decided I would actually start by putting down a piece of the inside of an envelope. It's one of these kind of security envelopes with the nice pattern on them. And this one is almost a kind of honeycomb pattern. So I've put that down, got it in place, and now I'm going to put down the piece of greaseproof paper that I'd been using yesterday, so it's got some lovely colours on it. And I like the fact that I can actually see the security envelope through it. And now that that's in place, I will just cut around the edges. Oh, quick dry first, and then I'll cut around the edges. So I barely let anything go to waste. You know, all the little scraps, they might just get pushed off to the side, but at some point they'll all get used. So liking the look of that, but as I'm looking at it, I see that some of the pieces that I actually had cut off from around the edges were looking quite good too, and I think, right, I'm going to use some of these. And this all helps build layers and texture and, certainly in my opinion, interest on the card. And I just keep going with that. So this actually ends up making the edges of the card really quite thick because there's several layers there. So another quick dry, and then I'll just cut the overhang off once more. So, liking the way it's going, but of course it's now a case of thinking where next. So I pull out a Tim Holtz Stencil Harlequin and texture paste, and I apply some of that through the stencil to the card. And again, this will just add more layers and more texture. And I'm not trying to put this on too thick, and I'm not even concerned if it's even. And just taking it off the stencil so it doesn't damage it. Quick dry, and then I'm going to use some of this tarnished brass spray. I never like the way the spray comes out. The bottle had been clogged. I got it unclogged, but it never sprays terribly well, so you'll see me just dabbing it against my craft mat there. Dabbing a bit off, but also decide to add some of the vintage photo spray. And then on top of that I'll add a bit of water, and that will just help the two kind of blend a bit further together. So once that's had a quick dry, I'm looking to see what my focal image might be on this, and I think this leaf image from a pack of Tim Holtz papers might be quite good. So I cut it out, lay it down, and I actually think this is starting to look a bit autumnal, which is not what I want at this point in the year, but it is what it is. So I just start to think about ways that I can maybe, just move away a little bit from that kind of autumn feel. But I start by just going round the diamonds with my Stabilo awl, just so that they can be a little bit clearer. And that certainly seems to lift them. Then just going round the edge with the walnut stain. Again, I'm just using a lot of the products that were already sitting on my desk from yesterday. In fact, I'm sure some of these haven't moved in days, perhaps even weeks. That's just the way it goes sometimes. So again, looking at the leaf, but feeling that it's not quite right. So I take some of the fluid acrylic out in the green-yellow colour. I don't want it too thick at this point, so I spray the leaf with some just water, and then just start to dab the colour on and spread it round. And then I just take a bit and also add it to the main body of the card. So that's certainly starting to change it a bit, but not sufficient. It's still too autumn looking for me. I think if I'd applied a different focal image, it would have been fine, but it was just with the leaf, it was looking very autumn-like. So starting to introduce more of the green-yellow, and then I go for some of this is a kind of purple colour. If you want the exact name, let me know. I've used it over several of the ATCs though. And I just let that spread a bit, add some more water to the leaf and start to add some of the kind of purple to it. I then introduce some of the copper. So by this point that leaf is absolutely soaking. I'm actually kind of concerned about lifting it off the paper, just off the table, just in case it tears. So I just take a second or two just to lift up the excess paint that was on the craft mat, just putting it onto that envelope, and again that will go off to the side for use at some future point. So after the leaf had dried a little bit, it was still quite damp, I just look at what I might do. So because I'd applied a lot of water to the ATC, a lot of the Stabilo had kind of washed away, so just applying a bit more of it again. And I just take some of the walnut stain and go round the leaf. Now the background and the kind of main focal point of the leaf are very kind of similar, but sometimes I want something to stand out a lot, and other times I don't mind. I'm quite happy for it just to be kind of part of that overall picture. But what I decide to do is to take some of this kind of copper coloured glitter, and I'm going to use some of that, but I also decide that I want to try and retain some of the richness of the colours, and for that reason I'm going to use a decoupage gloss glue, one to put the leaf down in place, but just to go over the whole card with it. So I'm now just sprinkling some of the glitter over, and I'll now glue the leaf in place, and then I'll go over the whole thing with the gloss decoupage. And I give it a really good coating. Now some of the glitter moves a little bit, but it's okay, it's meant to just be scattered around. But what I do anyway is once I've finished applying the glue, I take more of the glitter and sprinkle it over. And I think that just helps lift the whole thing. Of course, at this point it's that kind of milky colour, but that will go when it dries. And just cutting off that little excess bit of leaf. And I'll quickly go round that with the walnut stain again. So it still has a bit of an autumnal look to it, but less so than it did. So this little embellishment I'd kind of dug out from my stash, and there was just something about it that I thought went with this particular card. But I also have a look through my chit chat for something that I might put on here, and I came up with this. Each day is different, and you know, it's kind of, well, it is. Each day is different, and in terms of the ATCs that I'm making, each day is different, so that just seemed to fit. So I just laid them on gently in case I wanted to move them, and you'll see that I am just moving them a bit. I didn't need to put any other glue on it because they were quite sticky and they were clinging quite well to the kind of gloss glue that I'd already used, so I just pushed them down into place. And then I glue the embellishment in place, just looking for little bits where I can actually put some of the glossy accents onto. Now the white of the sentiment was just looking a little bit too stark for my liking, so I got some of the copper fluid acrylic and a lot of water, and as I always do, I just start very light to begin with, so a very light coat, and then I go back in with it just a little bit deeper, a bit richer colour there. Now I just take a fine line pen and just go round each word. And I do like the way that that glitter is showing up, and the texture. So then I just put a very sketchy type of border around. And that's it done. So quite pleased with the way that worked out in the end. So as always, thanks so much for watching, for all the comments you leave and for all the love that you show. So thanks very much. Bye for now.